What's going on, guys? Today I'll be ranking my top quarterbacks in the NFL from the D range up to the S range. So let's get started. My D range are players that are solid backups, but shouldn't really be starting in the league. So I would go Josh Rosen here. Um, then I would probably go Joe Flacco, Colt McCoy, Ryan Fitzpatrick is probably like a C minus, I guess, because he's definitely better than these guys right now. Joe Flacco is just done for. Same with Eli Manning. I mean, he's retired, so. Anyone else? Okay. Moving on to the C range, I would put Mitch Trubisky because I actually think Trubisky still has some potential. He's made a Pro Bowl in his career, and he has a lot of really good games. Just he just needs to be in the right offense for him. And last year, for most of the year, I don't think Matt Nagy, the Bears coach, was making the offense friendly for Trubisky. Like he needs to be like rolling out of the pocket more, using his athleticism and his speed. This is a guy who is pretty athletic and pretty fast. He needs to be moved on the run way more. He's not just a pure pocket passer. Like people forget that just 2 years ago he he led them to a 12-4 record and set them up for an easy field goal that the kicker just blew the double doink. If he makes that field goal, then Trubisky already has a really big playoff win under his belt. So I mean, he played very well in that playoff game too. So he gets too much hate in my opinion. I put Andy Dalton like right there with Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's a guy that once in a while could have a decent game, but is just not really. You don't really want to start him. That kind of goes with Marcus Mariota as well. So these are like the last borderline starters, and everyone else pretty much is most like Andrew Luck's on this list, so I'll just leave him out because obviously he's retired. But most of these guys should probably start next year. So I put Philip Rivers as a B minus because he's still a solid starter. But at this point, I don't really think he's that good anymore. And I think the Colts gave him way too much money. He throws so many picks. He turns the ball over so much. Like he could have an amazing game, and then the next game throw 4 picks. So he's so inconsistent. But maybe he'll have a solid year. He could do it. He could have a terrible year or a great year. Like there's really no knowing with him. So it's worth the risk though for the Colts because they need like a big time playmaking quarterback to like carry them into the playoffs. So if he sucks, then they suck. It is what it is. But if he's really good, then they're going to be a very good team. Derek Carr, I put as like a B minus as well. He's a pretty good game manager. Doesn't really turn the ball over too much, but he's not going to light you up either. It's kind of the opposite of Philip Rivers. Philip Rivers has more upside of like yards wise, but also can turn the ball over more. Derek Carr is more conservative. I'll say Cam Newton is right there too. I can't believe he and I'll put Jameis Winston there too. Both of them, I can't believe both of them are still not signed yet. I feel like they're both pretty solid starting quarterbacks, maybe above average starting quarterbacks. And there's a lot of teams that, well, I know the Patriots definitely should get one of them, and I think the Chargers should have got one of them instead of drafting Justin Herbert, and then maybe drafted like Isaiah Simmons or Derek Brown instead. But they drafted Justin Herbert, so obviously they're not going to get one of these guys. Or maybe the Bears could have instead of getting Nick Foles. And here's Nick Foles. I'll put Nick Foles as like right there too. He's a Super Bowl. So I'll put him right here. Nick Foles and Trubisky. That's going to be interesting to see who wins that job. But they're both fairly similar. Like, so I mean, Nick Foles will probably get injured, so Trubisky has a good chance to play next year. Next, I would go Baker Mayfield, another B minus type of guy. Cam Newton and Jameis Winston are probably like B's, and these guys all B minuses. So Baker had a great rookie year, very disappointing sophomore year, but I wouldn't give up on him yet. I think he still has, he still could be a really good quarterback. He's only in his third year now, so he just needs to turn the ball over way less and not hold on to the ball as long. Get the ball out of his hand fast. Get it to the playmakers. He has so many playmakers: Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, Odell, Jarvis Landry, Austin Hooper, David Njoku. So you just got to get it to his playmakers. Sam Darnold, I'll give him a C plus because he's a starter for sure next year. And he does have upside, but I just don't really think he's that good, to be honest. He's he's not like a big time gunslinger like a Philip Rivers, but he also turns the ball over a good amount. So he's kind of like the best of the bad from Philip Rivers being like too risky, and also Derek Carr being like not that much upside. So he's kind of like the bad parts of both of those combined, which isn't great, but he's still super young, so obviously he's never really had the best weapons besides Le'Veon Bell, really. So maybe he has a lot of time to get better. Next, I would put Jared Goff as like a B plus B type of guy. Like Jared Goff had a disappointing year last year, but he's still like people are giving up on him already. When he was, great when they went to the Super Bowl, great a year before that. He's had one, disappointing year, and people think he's just terrible now. I don't think that's fair. I definitely could see him bouncing back next year, but we'll have to see. He turned the ball over way too much last year. He actually threw for a lot of yards, but a lot of those were like in garbage time kind of. They need to run the ball way more, the Rams do, and just take pressure off of him. And the defense was not good either. So it's not like Jared Goff was part of the problem, but he he got way too much hate. Next, I'll go Jimmy Garoppolo. It's another guy who gets way too much hate. Like he's a game manager, obviously, but he took his team to the fucking to the Super Bowl. Didn't mean to swear there. But he took his team to the Super Bowl, and he's like, yeah, he's not gonna throw for that many yards because he doesn't need to. They have such a good running game and a great defense where he's not gonna just throw the ball and play a game that the team doesn't isn't comfortable playing with. So for him to get hate for not like putting up big numbers is kind of stupid because if they're winning by so much, they're just gonna try to run the clock out, and that's why they run the ball so much. Like against the Packers, that he barely threw because they were dominating them. He's not gonna just throw for no reason. And I guess the Chiefs, he had one bad throw. Besides that, he played a pretty good game. And also that's the Super Bowl. There's so much pressure. Like you make one bad throw and and people think you're terrible. Oh, that's fair. Kirk Cousins, I'll put him right here. He's a pretty good quarterback. To me, this was his best year of his career. Even beat the Saints in a playoff game. Big, ginormous win. And he just played pretty well in every big game besides the 49ers. And they just overmatched them. Big Ben, I'll still put as like a B. Now, he's getting really up there, so it's going to be interesting to see how he looks like returning from his injury, but I still have faith in him to have a good season and get the Steelers in playoff contention. I don't know if they'll make the playoffs, but I think they'll be a pretty solid team. And also, they have a really good defense too. Next, I'll put Stafford. Yeah, Stafford is. I just wish this guy got out of Detroit, honestly, because he could be so good if he was on like the Bears or the Broncos, a team like that with with actual talent. Like the Lions are just such a bad franchise. I just feel bad for him that he's been stuck there forever. But he can throw the ball. Like he chucks it deep, accurately. So I really like Stafford's game. He just needs to get out of Detroit at some point. So I think we can move. I'll put Matt Ryan as a B plus as well. Matt Ryan, another good quarterback, but his team just didn't show up last year. He still put up great numbers. The defense was atrocious. Their running game was pretty bad. They just need to have a more balanced team next year. They're getting a lot of players back, like Keanu Neal, and they had a really good draft in my opinion. And they also signed Todd Gurley, so I like what they're doing. So I think they could be in playoff contention with Matt Ryan. Next, I would go. I think we could go in the A range now. Yeah, starting with Carson Wentz. He's like an A minus. Carson Wentz is extremely injury prone, obviously, but when he's healthy, he plays really well. He puts his body on the line, and that's the reason why he gets injured. But you can tell he's a real competitor. He's not afraid of getting injured, even though he does it so frequently, which is you got to give him credit for that. It's not the smartest thing, but it shows guts. And he puts his body on the line. Will do whatever he can to try to help his team win. And he gets to the playoffs pretty much every year in his career. So that's extremely impressive. He shows up in big division rival games against the Cowboys usually, or whatever big game. And unless if he gets hurt, which is pretty frequently. Besides getting injured, like he's a pretty good player, and also he had like no weapons last year around him, and he did pretty well. So next, I would go Dak Prescott. He also had an amazing year. Carson Wentz didn't really have an amazing year. He had a good year. Dak Prescott had an amazing year. He actually had really good wide receivers around him, and also really good, obviously Ezekiel Elliott. So Dak Prescott had a really good year. But Dak Prescott just has to beat good teams, which is not something he did last year. But this year, the Cowboys might have had the best draft out of anyone. And the Eagles had a great offseason, but a terrible draft. Well, not a terrible draft. They had one terrible pick, Jalen Hurts, but I would consider it a below average draft. And the Cowboys had a pretty bad offseason, but an amazing draft. You know, maybe the best draft in the league. So I think this is going to be a very good division rival next year. Right now, I have to give the edge to the Eagles because I think their defense is just so stacked still. They got Darius Slay, which is their biggest need, and they did draft a solid wide receiver. So, and maybe who knows? Maybe Jalen Hurts can be like an absolute, you know, trick play specialist and like just hurt all the like he could maybe he makes a big play and can beat the Cowboys in a big game. You never know. So Taysom Hill gave teams a lot of problems, and that's what Jalen Hurts is projected to play like. So next, I would go Josh Allen. This guy is an absolute beast running the ball and has arm strength that's amazing. His his accuracy is just not really there yet, but the way he improved from his rookie year to his second year makes me believe that he's also going to improve this year a lot. So I really like him, and I think the Bills would be a pretty good team. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Patriots still won that division because Bill Belichick can't really count him out. So next, I'm gonna go Tom Brady next, just because Tom Brady obviously is so old now, and he's got probably 2 years left. And the only reason I rank him this high is because he's still an absolute insane game manager. He will not turn the ball over in big situations. You can count on him down the stretch. He's insanely clutch as long as you actually have playmakers around him, which the Patriots really didn't have last year. And Edelman dropped a super big catch against the Titans. But Brady now has Gronk back, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans. Like, he's got an insane team, really like a pretty good defense. They had, you know, they had one of the best drafts as well, getting Tristan Wirfs with their first round pick, which is a steal. They also got Antoine Winfield in the second round, another really good pick at safety. So I think that Tom Brady will definitely lead the Buccaneers to the playoffs. They definitely have a good chance to win the division, and they definitely have a good chance to win the Super Bowl. Not because he's gonna be, amazing, because he's gonna do enough. You know what I mean? Like, if you think about their defense, like a lot of people think their defense isn't good, but they were ranked like top 3 against the run last year, and they're bad against the pass. But they had a quarterback, Jameis Winston, who threw for a lot of yards and a lot of touchdowns, but he had the most interceptions and the most pick sixes. Like, if you have a guy who is, setting the team up in plus territory like multiple times a game on average, then obviously your defense is not going to be good against the pass. Like, the fact that they were so dominant against the run proves that they're actually a really good defense, and they're going to be a really good team now that they have a quarterback that will not turn the ball over at all. Really, Tom Brady barely even turns the ball over. Next, I would go Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers also getting up in age, but at this point he's pretty much like Tom Brady. Just he can do more with his legs, and he could throw better at this point in their careers. But at this point, the Packers are a run heavy team, and they're looking to transition into their new era, so to speak. That's why they got Jordan Love, which people hated that pick, including myself, because it seemed like it is crazy to take a first round quarterback, but they must have been in love with him, and they must have been like, okay, if Jordan Love drops to us, if we have a chance to get him without paying too much, we're gonna do it. And they felt like that was the right move. So I mean, it worked out when they drafted Aaron Rodgers, so you never know. But I still don't agree with it. But at this point, Aaron Rodgers is getting close to an end. He's still an solid A quarterback. Next, I would go Kyler Murray, just a little ahead of Aaron Rodgers because his playmate, like he just his ability to run the ball and just escape from the defense is like unlike anyone else besides probably Russell Wilson and Lamar Jackson. Probably better than Russell Wilson even. And he like his improvement from the beginning to his rookie season to the end was like the most I've ever seen in 1 year for a quarterback. He looked like a Pro Bowler at the end, and at the beginning in the preseason, people were calling him a bust and like that like this will not transition over to the NFL. This is a college system. Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray are two college, a college um, a college quarterback and a college coach trying to make it in the NFL will never work. And they showed that it they showed that it will work, and he just had an amazing year, and I think he has a good chance to even win the MVP this year if the Cardinals, you know, make the playoffs. So I think Kyler Murray can have like this is kind of off speculation, but also like even last year at the end, like Kyler Murray was definitely better than Tom Brady. Like Tom Brady at the like he's just so old now, but Aaron Rodgers and Kyler Murray is pretty close. But I think even at the end of the last season, Kyler Murray was just playing better than Aaron Rodgers. So now we can go into the S's. I put Deshaun Watson first. Deshaun Watson is pretty much just also, well, yeah, he also escapes them from the defense and just amazingly. He is just a winner. Like he won at Clemson. He's winning on the Texans. He somehow won that playoff game against the Bills, which was an insane comeback against a great passing defense. He's never out of it. He makes pretty much all the throws. Like he's just he's just for sure a top five quarterback. I mean, I don't know what else to say about him. Now the reason why Drew Brees is better than him is because Drew Brees is just he's the most accurate quarterback still in the NFL. He doesn't have obviously the running game as Deshaun Watson, which having that makes you better. But Drew Brees being so accurate is just makes him such an elite quarterback. He he always has like the highest completion percentage in the league. He just puts in the perfect spot for the receivers and rarely turns the ball over. Deshaun Watson has definitely turned the ball over more than good amount more than Drew Brees. Next, I would go. I think I would go Lamar Jackson next, just because his playoff success is so bad. Like you can argue that his worst two games, like his most two disappointing games, were his two playoff games. Like his first playoff game against the Chargers, he was very bad. Like he was terrible. It didn't even look like he belonged to be a starter, honestly. And last year in the playoffs, they were projected. They were like favored by double digits. They were supposed to easily win, and he disappointed big time. This is an MVP, player that looked like a average starter. So he got exposed in the playoffs, but obviously he was electric in the regular season this year, an absolute the best rushing quarterback season of all time. He needs to work on his throwing mechanics a little bit more, but he's a good thrower though. Like he's not just a runner, not even close. But he definitely isn't on the level of like these other quarterbacks throwing the ball. So if he could be like if he can improve his throwing, he could be the best. He could be you know a lot better. Also, he needs to win some playoff games, which I think this year I think the Ravens are like the most stacked team, so they should be able to win at least one playoff game. So next, Russell Wilson. This guy just finds a way to win games, kind of like Deshaun Watson, but at a more higher rate even. Obviously, he has a Super Bowl, and pretty much every year he gets a playoff win. It seems like. Um, he just, he doesn't really have the best wide receivers around him, but he just makes it work. Like Doug Baldwin was really good, but I think Russell Wilson kind of just made his career because Doug Baldwin was never really anything, in college. He was a really low draft pick, and Russell Wilson just made him look good. Same with a guy like Tyler Lockett. And DK Metcalf was pretty good in college, but he was still a low second round draft pick that was arguably the best rookie wide receiver in the league last year. So Russell Wilson just makes his teammates better. They usually don't have a good offensive line, and he just escapes from the defense and, makes time for the wide receivers to get open and just fires it in there. And then number one, Patrick Mahomes can make every single throw. Already has a Super Bowl under his belt, which is incredible. But like this guy, like the throws he makes is just doesn't I like stuff I've never seen before. And also he doesn't like Brett Favre. People compare him to Brett Favre, but he is way better at like running than Brett Favre, and he turns the ball over way less than Brett Favre. So, in my opinion, like if Patrick Mahomes keeps this up, he's gonna be like maybe a top 10 quarterback of all time. Obviously, he has a lot of work to do still, but like he doesn't even need to get better. He just needs to stay where he's at. Like he doesn't really need to get better that much, honestly. He's just insane. He literally it's like sometimes he gets bored, so he just throws it with his left hand or does no look passes on a football field. That's absurd. But so that's why I ranked him as the number one. I just feel like he's a man amongst boys, and he's just he's just head and shoulders above all these other quarterbacks. So that's my quarterback ranking. Hit the like button, subscribe, and comment below. I make daily NFL and NBA content, so I'll see you in the next video. Peace.